Good evening from Japan. Jake Knowlton here once again, and I just want to give a huge thanks to everybody who watched my previous video, and thanks if you're watching this one. It was weird making a YouTube video after so many years, but it felt good, and I'm happy that so many of you actually watched it. 200 is not a lot in today's YouTube. For me, just me, little old me, big fat me, I feel very happy. So it actually made me feel like I want to make another video, which compared to before when I was just kind of doing it to force myself to do it, it definitely feels pretty good. So what I wanted to talk about today is something that a lot of people who live in Japan or have lived in Japan, or people who moving to Japan who have watched other videos might be worried about is it possible to be happy in Japan as a person who has moved here? Now, that sounds like a silly question. Can you be happy? Of course you can be happy. However, there are a lot of different factors that can make you happier and make you the happiest, super happy, wonderfully happy, or there are a lot of things that can really drag you down. For me, I was on a bit of a nami, an up and down wave. When I first came to Japan, I was loving it when I lived in Gunma. It was a lot of fun just searching around, learning Japanese. I was going to the gym, losing a lot of weight. My job was okay. Peppy Kids Club was quite fun. Looking back on it, I couldn't have asked for a better starting job in Japan. Actually, after moving to Tokyo, things started to change a little bit. The great part was that I got married. That was awesome. But my work was not very good. I was working for a company that was quite toxic. And by toxic, I mean the other teachers were pretty horrible. Not to me particularly, just as humans. Making not safe for work jokes about children, not trying very hard, not very ambitious. And it kind of really dragged me down a lot. And then after my daughter was born, obviously, things got very good. And then COVID hit, and everyone was in the same boat. COVID sucked. There were some parts of COVID which were great. Disneyland was incredible during COVID. However, the rest of life sucked. If anyone had to go through one of those, 10 or 14-day quarantines, genuinely, the only time in my life I felt true depression was when I had to quarantine by myself for over a week. It was the worst experience of my life, but that's all behind us now. And now I have my own house. I'm a principal of an international school. We're focused on saving, investing. I've got 2 weird but wonderful dogs, and life is finally up and up like this. But that is irrelevant of Japan. The 14-day quarantine was a pretty Japanese thing, but a lot of those things are not necessarily because of Japan. It just happened to be in Japan. And I think that's where a lot of these issues or positive things can come from. Now, when a lot of people come from Japan, they might have dreams or goals or things that they want to achieve, and they might have an image of Japan from what they've seen on social media. There's a lot of videos on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, just everything about Japan. And to be honest, a lot of them not true. Now, I can understand also why if you just watch dramas and, Japanese TV, anime, play video games, you might build this image of Japan that when you come to Japan might not sustain itself. That is kind of natural. We can only make an image of what we see. And if we watch a lot of stuff, and no matter how much we read on the internet, no matter how many videos we watch on YouTube, we can't know until we feel it for ourselves. Coming here, and that is when the real test comes. Now, did you want to come to Japan and live a lifestyle that you've seen on TV? It's not really going to happen. Number one, you're not Japanese. You're not going to be making friends, connections, family, romances that you've seen on TV. I mean, it's weird that I have to say that on a YouTube video, but there are people I've met in Japan who want to live that kind of life. There are some people I've met in Japan who just watch a ton of anime and just surround themselves with that image. Now, liking anime is fine, but you've got to separate yourself, reality, from what you see. And that's not just with Japan, that's with anything. Now, learning the language is very, very important to becoming happy in Japan. Interestingly, not learning any Japanese and learning lots of Japanese can make you very, very happy. It's that middle part. Learning no Japanese gives you that kind of blissful ignorance that you just walk around with no care in the world. Learning a lot of Japanese opens a lot of doors, communicate with anybody, people respect you more. There's an interesting phenomenon in Japan about the Nihongo jouzu desu ne, where people say that your Japanese is good. What's interesting is that the better your Japanese gets, people don't say that as much anymore, because it kind of changes from people knowing that you're learning Japanese to people understanding that you understand Japanese, and they don't need to say it anymore. You wouldn't compliment somebody who looks foreign on their English if they sounded like a native. You would just assume that they're fluent in English. However, you might speak to somebody who you know is learning English and compliment them on their English because you can tell that they are learning. It's a weird phenomenon. The better you get, I don't really get Nihongo jouzu desu ne anymore. I am going to take that my Japanese is amazing, but I can only speak for myself. That middle ground of Japanese can be quite tough, where you know quite a lot, but people still don't take you seriously. You cannot get the job that you want, and you feel like you want to get better at Japanese, but it's quite hard to break through. That is a struggle you can feel with anything, with career, with hobbies, with any other kind of study. The other key to happiness in Japan is finding a job that you like. Now, this channel is going to cover all sorts of things related to that, but finding a job that you like is of course essential to happiness anywhere. And maybe that's just going to be something I repeat in this video. Happiness is the same no matter where you go. It just so happens that I live in Japan, I'm experienced with Japan, and I'm making videos about Japan. So it's just going to use the word Japan a lot. A lot of people come to Japan as an ALT, or maybe there are people working in factories, convenience stores that may have a lower salary, but still have to do a lot of work. When I was working in Peppy Kids Club, I was getting 250,000 yen a month, but I was not working that much. However, I was commuting almost as many hours as I was working. Now, I commute about 30 minutes a day. I make more than double what I was making at Peppy Kids Club. And the workload is actually, of course it's more, but it's easier to get done because I'm used to it. Teaching is quite hard because every single lesson can be very different depending on the students, and you have to be very flexible and adaptive to every single minute in the classroom if you're a good teacher. You might find happiness in getting those jobs and feeling like you've made it. However, those jobs could come with overtime, nomikais, personal relationships with Japanese people or other people from other countries, which can be stressful in themselves. So finding the right job for you is key to making you happy in Japan. Now, the last one is your personal life. What do you want to be or become, or what do you want to get? I have a wife. We've been married for almost 8 years now. My daughter is turning 6 next week. We have 2 mini schnauzers. We have our own 4-bedroom house with a garden. I have a car that's fully paid off. I am very, very happy. There are some people who want to get some people who want to get married who have not been fortunate to get that yet. And that can affect your happiness. Again, something that happens anywhere, but living in Japan can be very difficult because Japanese people can be very difficult to communicate with. And I'm sure from Japanese people's standpoint, foreigners can be very difficult to communicate with as well. Japanese people are not as communication heavy as Westerners. And I say Westerners just because I'm a Westerner. That's just the experience I have. Japanese people, if you're in a relationship, might not message you every day. They won't say, I love you. Well, some of them might, but typically not as many. They might not be as open to public displays of affection, which, to be honest, I also am not a fan of. There are many who might keep you a secret from their family until it's time to get married. There are lots of different situations that can happen. And not just with, boyfriends, girlfriends, stuff like that. It can also happen with friends as well, or co-workers. It can happen with a lot of different situations. There are some friends that I made in Japan that just disappeared one day. I remember when I used to go to a gym in Tokyo, there was another guy from England there, and he had been in a relationship with his girlfriend for 3 years, And one day she just blocked him, deleted him, and just never spoke to him again. And they never actually officially broke up. That was how he found out they'd broke up, because instead of her actually having the balls to tell him that they're ending the relationship, she just decided not to communicate with him anymore, and he was devastated. Now, I don't know from his side what he might have done for that to happen. He might have not done anything at all. But mentally, that is quite rough. But there's just a few things. And then obviously when you do get in relationships, there are a lot of cultural things which I have learned about marriages, kids. There's a lot of cultural events that happen in Japan, which are very nice and look pretty cool and are fun when you get into it. They just all happen to cost a lot of money. Luckily, families are more generous with money. Grandparents are more generous with taking care of kids, but also in-laws are a worldwide thing. Luckily, I get on very well with my in-laws. We live not that far away. They're great with my daughter. They even bring treats for my dogs. Everything worked out well for me for now. This is going to be a very broad video about can you be happy in Japan? And I think down the line, there will be more specific videos talking about different things. But I wanted to make something a little bit more broad today, basically because I also want to get this channel started. I want to get more content out there. I need to get more practice speaking into the camera. Maybe I've been speaking too fast this video. Maybe the light's too bright and I'm like squinting like this. It might all go very, very wrong, but it's all about practice at the end of the day. Thank you all for watching, guys, and I'll see you all next time.